welcome to the show. I appreciate you as always tuning in for a brand new episode. What's in store for you here tonight? Folks, it is the start of a new month, and with that, we got to bring in another Tales from the Crypt double feature. Tonight's theme is Severance. Folks, if you're a fan of the popular Apple TV hit show, they just had their season 2 finale, and I thought it would be fun to go and take a look at the pair of episodes that the stars of Severance were in. So strap in, folks, we are headed to the crypt. Tonight, our very first tale is going to be the season 4, episode 3, On a Dead Man's Chest. Now, if you haven't seen this one before, the story revolves around Danny, the lead singer of the hit rock band Exorcist. Danny is looking for the perfect new tattoo, but after he gets the hookup from the main groupie of the band, he'll find himself trying to do anything to get rid of it, even if he has to carve it off himself. And there it is, folks. That is On a Dead Man's Chest. Now, first things first, I got to see this episode during the Sci-Fi reruns. This is not one that I caught in its original airing, nor did I get to catch it on the Fox reruns that I've talked about a lot. So, On a Dead Man's Chest is a really great episode. Crypt has a lot of really good ones, but this is one that I've always put towards the top after seeing it. It has pretty much all the trademarks you're looking for in your normal Tales from the Crypt episode. You got a great story, you have a good twist, plenty of blood, there's both murder and supernatural elements in it, and the cast in it is really good. Now, speaking of the cast, our Severance connection here is going to be Joel Vasquez, who stars as the short-tempered Danny. Now, you might remember him playing the role of Petey in the first season of Severance. Vasquez stars here as Danny, and Danny feels he's losing control of his band to the girlfriend of his lead guitarist, Nick, Scarlett, played by Tia Carrere. Now, this is one of Joel Vasquez's first roles, and honestly, he goes balls out with this one, y'all. The HBO trademarks are here because Joel Vasquez goes full frontal on this one. Danny's insecure, he's violent, he's manipulative. You could tell that he's reaching his breaking point, which is a big part of this episode. I mentioned Tia Carrere, who plays Scarlett. I grew up knowing her from Wayne's World and True Lies. She was just the coolest person ever. And to me, like, she always screamed that she was this femme fatale. And so we don't really get to see Scarlett in the same negative light that Danny is portraying her to be in throughout this episode. I mean, there's no doubt that she's looking out for her boyfriend, Nick, the guitarist of the band, and trying to make sure he gets everything that he deserves and doesn't want Danny dragging him down. But at the same time, we don't get to see that negative light that Danny has. So it kind of like goes to tell us that Danny's a little bit more off his rocker than what he really does seem. It might have helped a little bit to see some of the actions that he's talking about, but I think the implication here is that Scarlett is just a regular girlfriend who just is looking out for her boyfriend, and Danny feels threatened by that because he's kind of lorded over this guitarist since they were back in high school. Now, to round out the cast here, we also get who I call the Queen of the Crypt, Sherry Rose. Now, I've talked about her before in my Demon Knight review, where she appeared as the mother of a character named Danny in that film, but Sherry Rose actually has made 3 appearances in the Crypt franchise. This is her first. She goes on to have another episode that she stars in titled Only Skin Deep that we will get to this year. And of course, Demon Knight. Now, she plays the main Exorcist groupie Vendetta, and she's the one that ends up referring Danny to a very special tattoo artist, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But it's really fun getting to see her play entirely different roles in the 3 appearances that she's done in Crypt. I mean, Vendetta here absolutely has some idea of this tattoo that Danny ends up getting and the supernatural properties of it. And she's definitely angling for a bit of power, whether that means being Danny's official girlfriend or just the main groupie and getting Scarlett gone. It's just interesting that she doesn't really turn on Danny or get weirded out by anything until Danny turns on her at the end of the episode. She very much is serving as like the devil on his shoulder, pushing him towards all of this. Now, that tattoo artist, Heavy D, It's crazy because, y'all, this is around the time Heavy D is just in his bag. He's got the Living Color theme song out there. He's got plenty of albums out there. Now that we found love, Heavy D is at the top of the charts and making an appearance here in Tales from the Crypt. You wouldn't believe it, the rap game crossing over with the horror game this early, but it kind of sets the stage for what we would see in the late 90s and on, that the rap game just loves horror. Now, the twist of all this is that the tattoo that Danny gets from Heavy D's character is this really, really cool dragon that's wrapped around Scarlett's face. And no matter what he does, laser removal, chemicals, the tattoo keeps coming back and it keeps driving Danny insane until finally he decides the only way to get some peace is to murder Scarlett. Now, uh, that's not the end of the episode because it keeps building at that point. Danny is still disturbed, as we can see, and during a performance on stage, the tattoo comes alive, which drives him back to the dressing room, in which he realizes the only way to get rid of it is to cut it off of his skin, which we see it's pretty gnarly. Now, this episode was directed by William Friedkin. Yes, that William Friedkin, believe it or not, directed this episode. And his numerous films always have this great way of building tension to the point to where it's like kind of hard to breathe by the time you get to the end of it. And that translates really well here to On a Dead Man's Chest, because like I said, the tension keeps rising and rising and rising between Danny and Scarlett. So you know something is going to end up eventually happening here. The murder that Danny commits against Scarlett is pretty damn violent, honestly. And considering, by the time I saw this episode, I already saw Tina Carrere get killed pretty badly in True Lies. We don't really get to see it that much, but this is more brutal than that was. And so, yeah, Friedkin here definitely is playing well to the crowd. A lot of blood, a lot of guts in this one. And I'd be remiss to not mention the chest cutting scene at the very end. Even after Danny has his skin off and he's holding it up, you can see Scarlett's face actually coming right back in. So there's no true escape for him. This has been one of my favorite episodes for a while. I don't anticipate that changing anytime soon. I highly suggest you guys check this one out. Again, it has all the staples you're looking for in a classic Crypt episode. And our second episode that we are talking tonight is season 2, episode 9, Four-Sided Triangle. If you haven't seen this one before here, the story follows Mary Jo, a fugitive on the run who's been working as a farmhand for the abusive Yates family. Fighting off sexual advances from Mr. Yates, Mary Jo's dreams that the farm scarecrow has come to life to rescue her might not be a dream after all. And there it is, y'all. That is Four-Sided Triangle. Now, again, just like On a Dead Man's Chest, this is another one that I caught in the sci-fi run. A lot of fun behind this one here because this episode was not only directed, but it was co-written by horror legend Tom Holland. And I know what you're thinking. Spider-Man wrote this one? No, y'all, of course Spider-Man didn't write this episode. We are talking, again, the horror maestro, Psycho 2, Child's Play, Fright Night. Amongst so many actual on-screen roles, you might remember seeing him in the Hatchet films as well too. Tom Holland is a living legend, and it's actually really cool synergy to have him do an episode of Crypt, because one thing that a lot of you probably know, some of you might not hear, is that the Crypt Keeper's eyes are actually from an old Chucky doll. So in this episode here, we're still in season 2, so the Crypt Keeper still seems like the meek, smaller version that we see in those first 2 seasons, still just in the cloak typically, but in this episode here, he's dressed up as a farmhand. And it's kind of interesting to hear the development of Kassir's voice on this one. John Kassir famously does the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and there's very much a difference between these first 2 seasons and then the following 5 after that. Kassir was starting to find the exact voice he wanted to use, it seemed, by the end of the season 2 sessions, and you can hear it break out a little bit amongst some of these episodes in season 2 to where the Crypt Keeper gets a little higher than what he's typically been sounding, because over the course of that first season and a large part of the second season, still gravelly, still very, very low. It's still supposed to be mostly scary, where Whereas in season 3 and beyond, we get to see him more upbeat, more jokes. And this honestly might as well be seen as a direct follow-up to Dream Warriors for our star of the episode, Patricia Arquette, who you know as Miss Harmony Corbell in Severance as well. There's our connection for that one. But the thing about Mary Jo is, we don't know her crime. A lot of the other episodes of Crypt that we see to where our protagonist is some kind of criminal, I could point out season 3's Carrying Death, for example. If it's money related, we usually hear them talking about that money, or we get to see some glance of it, diamond jewels, whatever it is that they're trying to get here. But Mary Jo's crime isn't mentioned. We don't get any flashbacks. We get nothing like that at all. So my assumption for the longest time is that Mary Jo is likely involved in some kind of murder. Whether she committed it or helped out in it, that it was likely murder related. And the end of the episode makes me feel that's the evidence that points to it. We'll get to that here in a moment. Now, the tension of this particular episode is coming from Mr. Yates, who is trying everything in his power to sleep with Mary Jo. Now, we know that's not going to happen willingly. Mary Jo obviously has zero interest in him. So, of course, Mr. Yates continually tries to use force or power or tricks to get his way. Now, Mary Jo's man is a scarecrow. This revelation comes to her after an attempt of Mr. Yates to again try to assault Mary Jo, and he cracks her upside the head with the bottle that clearly gives her a concussion. And we're to think that there's maybe some hallucinations and things coming out of that. But again, considering the end of the episode, I don't know how true that is. And the choice of making the Scarecrow the avatar of Mary Jo's boyfriend here is a good choice, just because the entire point of the Scarecrow is to scare the crows away, to protect your product, protect your harvest. And in this case, you could see Mary Jo is the product that the Scarecrow is ultimately trying to protect, while the Yates themselves are more like the crows the Scarecrow is trying to ward off. And the thing about it is that we're not given any firm confirmation whether or not the supernatural elements of this one are actually real or not. I thought for a little while when I was younger that that's what we were trying to figure out. Is this Scarecrow actually alive? But then I realized as I got older, it really doesn't matter. That mystery is not actually important because, again, if we look at it through today's lens, Mr. Yates is the one who ends up having to make the Scarecrow real if he's going to get that chance to get down with Mary Jo. So he dresses up as the Scarecrow, which leads to him sealing his own fate at that point. But the thing about it is, at the end of the episode, Mary Jo ends up killing Mrs. Yates because Mrs. Yates thinks that Mary Jo and Mr. Yates are in a bit of a tryst out in the cornfield. She comes out and stabs the Scarecrow to prove to Mary Jo the Scarecrow isn't real. Obviously, it's Mr. Yates dressed up as the Scarecrow, and then Mary Jo kills her with a pitchfork. And the thing is that Mary Jo didn't really need to kill Mrs. Yates because what's Mrs. Yates going to do? She's disabled. She doesn't really have a way of holding Mary Jo there. And that is the reason why I think that Mary Jo might have been involved in a murder, because after she kills Mrs. Yates, there's no remorse. She just grabs the key so she can make her escape, and she sings off into the crops. Not something you would do if you weren't okay with murder and just a little bit disturbed there. So I think Mary Jo might be a little bit more evil than what we're truly letting on, because it does seem that maybe she came up with the idea of faking all of this once she realized the advances that Mr. Yates was going to pull, and that she had to do something else to separate her and make her grand escape here. I don't know. Y'all tell me here what you think of my theory on this one, because I think it's a good episode, but I actually think that the supernatural elements that are kind of in the shadows aren't as important here as they truly need to be. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, but let me know that in the comment section here, folks. I am very curious about what y'all think about this one here. And of course, get subscribed so you can stay up to date with all the Tales from the Crypt that I'm talking, along with my other reviews I have coming your way. Best way to do that is through my link tree at linktr.ee/T Scary Movie. If you get subscribed, that's going to be access to the YouTube page with video versions of the show, to your favorite podcasting platforms for the audio-only versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, to my TikTok page for full episodes, movie news, and movie premieres, to my Twitch page for horror gaming, and my Fangoria shop page where you can get a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of that, y'all. Hit that subscribe button. Again, I got more great horror stuff coming your way. First Wednesday of every month, we're going to talk more Crypt episodes for you. Earlier this week, we talked The Woman in the Yard. We talked Death of the Unicorn. I got reviews coming for The Rule of Ginny Penn, season 2 finale of Mayfair Witches. And I am adding a review because for those of y'all that are watching this on April 2nd, in the last 24 hours, we have unfortunately learned of the passing of the legend Val Kilmer, one of my absolute favorite actors of all time. And in an honor to him, I'll be dropping a review for The Ghost and the Darkness later on as well. So hit that subscribe button, folks. I don't want you to miss any of it, but that's going to do it for me tonight. I appreciate you tuning in. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.